When people start looking for waterfront towns in Monmouth County, they almost always focus on the same places: Rumson, Seabright, Long Branch. And those are great towns, but there's one waterfront town sitting quietly along the bay that most buyers completely overlook. Not because it lacks beauty, not because it lacks access, but because it doesn't fit the stereotype that people expect when they imagine Jersey Shore. That town? It's Atlantic Highlands. And if you're someone exploring Monmouth County, maybe you're relocating from New York, or just trying to figure out which of these waterfront towns actually fits your lifestyle, this channel is exactly for you. My team and I sell homes across Monmouth County every single week, and we're helping buyers navigate these towns and understanding the differences between them. So, if you want honest insights into what it's really like living here, the good, the bad, and the things that nobody tells you, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if at any point you're thinking about making a move here, all of our contact information is in the description below. My team and I are always happy to help. Now, let's talk about Atlantic Highlands and why people who discover it tend to fall in love with it. Atlantic Highlands is a little different from most of the shore towns in New Jersey. For starters, it's not flat. Most coastal towns along the Jersey Shore are set up like grids: flat streets, straight roads, easy to understand in 5 minutes. Atlantic Highlands is about as completely opposite as you can get. The town rises into the hills, the streets curve, homes sit above the harbor in ways that create incredible views. But if you're just driving through it quickly, it can feel very unfamiliar. And most buyers today that are scanning Zillow, looking at 3 towns in one afternoon, trying to make quick decisions, it's a little bit more challenging. Atlantic Highlands doesn't really reveal itself that quickly. You have to spend a little bit of time here. But once we drive through the hills and down toward the harbor, it usually becomes the surprise town of the day. And because many people don't take that time, it quietly stays under the radar. And I see this happen all the time with buyers relocating from the city. It doesn't have the same great school ratings that Rumson and Ferry even have, so that buyer contingent often overlooks it. However, if you're already planning on sending your kids to private school, or you're an empty nester, this has to be at the top of your list. We're seeing many more of our affluent sellers from Rumson, along Navesink River Road, etc., sell their 10,000 square foot homes on the water and choose to downsize to water view homes here in Atlantic Highlands. The waterfront here is one of the most underrated on the entire Jersey Shore. The waterfront here isn't something you visit once in the summer. It's part of an everyday life. And the ferry here is one of the hidden advantages. So the Seastreak ferry runs directly into Manhattan, and we've actually had clients who live within eye line of that ferry terminal in Atlantic Highlands. So they'll be enjoying their cup of coffee, watching the boat come into the harbor, and they'll be able to time their walk to the ferry so that they get on it just while that ferry is ready to head to New York. Now that is about as efficient a commute as you could possibly have. This is also one of the few towns in New Jersey where elevation completely changes the experience of living here. Because Atlantic Highlands sits on the hills overlooking the harbor, some homes have something very rare that you can't find in part of the state. Views, but sunsets over the harbor, rolling hills leading down toward the marina. It gives the town a perspective that most shore towns just simply don't have. You feel connected to the water, but also slightly above it. Some of the homes up on the hills, especially along Ocean Boulevard and the streets above the marina, can have the most surprising views in Monmouth County. It's one of the few places where buyers can actually see the Manhattan skyline from their living room. I think this strand of homes along Ocean Boulevard and Bayside have tremendous upside potential over the next 10 years, especially as the artistic community settles here due to Netflix's new East Coast headquarters at Fort Monmouth. The closest thing I can compare this part of town to are those steep hills overlooking San Francisco Bay. The buyers who tend to fall in love with Atlantic Highlands are usually looking for something that's a little bit different from the traditional Jersey Shore experience. They want water access without boardwalk chaos, character instead of cookie-cutter homes, and a community that often feels authentic rather than polished. You'll find commuters here taking the ferry to Manhattan, families who want a quieter lifestyle, artists, creatives, and professionals who appreciate the town's personality and uniqueness. It's not flashy, but it's incredibly livable. And here's something interesting about towns that stay a little under the radar like this. They tend to age really well. When a town becomes extremely trendy, prices spike really quickly, but that lifestyle can change just as quickly. Atlantic Highlands has avoided that. The town hasn't needed to reinvent itself. It's simply matured over time. And that stability is something a lot of buyers quietly appreciate. From a real estate perspective, Atlantic Highlands has also been interesting over the last few years. Prices here are often a little bit more approachable than towns like Rumson or Seabright, but the lifestyle can feel just as connected to the water. And because the town hasn't exploded in popularity the same way some other shore towns have, buyers sometimes find a better value here. You can still find homes under $800,000 on the low end and waterfront estates stretching upwards of $3 million. We just recently sold an amazing lot at the top of the hill this year for just under $2 million for the land alone. If the new buyer ends up building the home that the developer had planned to put there, they could easily be looking at a house that has a $6 million valuation on it. So there's a lot to be excited about at Atlantic Highlands. And if you're thinking about moving anywhere in Monmouth County, whether that's Atlantic Highlands, Rumson, Red Bank, or anywhere along the shore, my team and I help people relocate here every single week. So if you have questions about neighborhoods, pricing, which town might fit you best, feel free to reach out. Call, text, email, whatever works for you. Our contact information is in the description below. The most overlooked towns are rarely the ones lacking value. They're usually the ones that simply haven't tried to compete for the attention. Atlantic Highlands doesn't shout. It doesn't really advertise itself. But for people who take the time to understand it, it quietly becomes one of the most rewarding places to live along the entire Jersey Shore.